In this tutorial in Fusion 360, we're going to take a look at using some of the, well, maybe not so common sketching tools. In my class, we've already looked at lines, rectangle, center rectangle, drawing a circle, creating a slot. But another option is a spline. As I look through here, I can find spline. We're going to do fit point spline. Every time that you click in the workspace, you will be creating a node. And what this will do, it will create a constantly variable radius line type. And when I get back to the starting point, I have created a complete contour. I can then go and move each of these nodes independently. I can change their tangency angle. I don't really know what you call this. Their curvature. Typically don't do that too often. In terms of a sketch, I can dimension from each node vertically or horizontally from one point to another. I could reference the origin and set a given distance. But typically with the freeform sketch with the spline is that you are not looking to create too many points of dimensional accuracy. You're really using it for the free-formed capabilities that it can create. So even if I set a couple dimensions here, I can come in and move the other ones. Whether I cut or extrude this or join this to another body, but that is the spline tool. Arc, 3-point arc, center arc, tangent arc. I'm not going to show this one, but there is very few applications for it. Real simple tools to run. One point, another point, and then I'm controlling which direction I want the arc to go. From here, I can dimension the radius. I can dimension the distance from point to point. I can use this in conjunction with other sketched entities. If I made a line, I could then run my 3-point arc. Possibilities are really endless. Let's do a center point arc. I am actually setting the radius as the first input, and now I'm setting the amount in terms of degrees. Like here's 270, 180, 90, 45 is probably somewhere around here. But I'm just creating that arc. Again, usually used in conjunction with other sketched entities. Make a little pie section. It's a really easy tool to create and manipulate. What's next? Polygon. Circumscribed, inscribed, and edge. The difference between the inscribed and circumscribed is your initial input. It constructs like a circle from the center out. Inscribed is touching all the flat surfaces. Circumscribed is touching all the points. Edge, you set one edge, the length of one edge, and then you're making the polygon. It only makes equilateral polygons. So that is something to keep in mind. You can control how many sides it has, 3, and I guess infinite, all the way up. You do not have to initially set what is the radius. Again, based on that circle, that's what it's inscribing or circumscribing. You could always come back and set the length of a line, which then all the edges would change. Or I could do the distance from flat surface to flat surface. I could do the distance from point to point. So you do have some ways to change the dimensions afterwards. Upon inserting this, you do get the option to change your number of sides. If I tab to it, I can put in 5 sides instead of 6. But the only difference between inscribe and circumscribe is where that circle happens. Now this time it's happening at the points instead of on the inside edges. The edge one, really easy to manipulate. You set the length on one side. How many sides do you want? I'll put in 8. And there you have it. Let's take a look at some other sketch tools here. Spline we already looked at. Ellipse. You are controlling 2 radii. Constructs like a circle from the center out, or a center point circle. Even if you make the dimensions vertically instead of horizontal, the long dimension vertically instead of horizontal, you can change this. There is a guideline here. I could set this to be 3 and then change this to be 1 to manipulate the axis. But you are controlling 2 radii. So ellipse again, center 1 radius, center 2nd distance, and then you can change these however you see fit. Okay, another sketch tool. Conic curve. I can't say there's no application for this, but probably not one we would go to a whole lot. As I click the 2 points, I am then creating the curve, and I can offset that curve to one side or the other. I can move it up and I can move it down. I can dimension the distance between these 2 points, more like a parabola. Points, we don't add points too often, but text. This will be the last one, adding text. If we were engraving or embossing something, if we were putting our name on something, the date, I don't know what you want to put on there. If we're engraving it, we're cutting into the surface. If we're embossing, we're extruding it from the surface. So I need some material here to start with, and I'm going to sketch some text. Initially, all you're doing is creating a text box. I'm not going to vary too much here from the font size and style. I just will make it bold, and I'm going to put in some sample text. Your name. I'll center justify it. I can move this text box in order to center it or place it on the object. But at this point, I'm either looking to either cut it in or extrude it out. So I've picked on the text, and if I'm going to emboss it, now it's embossed. If I want to cut it, push pull, and in this case I'm going to cut it into the surface, and I will have engraved my name. So just some text tool or some sketch tools to look at that we don't typically get to use based on our problem sets or assigned parts that we are constructing, more for these self-designed projects.